What up guys, Super Metal 983 here to bring you another Super Metal recommendations, and this is episode 5, and this one's kind of like a special kind of follow-up video to my top albums video that I done obviously at the end of 2017. Now this is going to feature not 5 but 10 more honourable mentions from 2017, and this is going to cover an array of albums and releases, covering stuff that that I listened to in 2017 and was going to make the top albums list but got cut out because of other albums. Also features albums that I discovered in early 2018. Yeah, you heard that right, early 2018. And felt like, wow, if I had discovered those, they may have been in my top albums. You never know. And also it's going to cover albums that I listened to in 2017 and quite enjoyed, but then come the end start of 2018, I'm like, why the fuck did I not feature those in my top albums list? So we're going to be covering an array of subjects and an array of albums, crossing black metal, deathcore and death metal, I believe. So we've got quite a few albums to get through. Make sure you check out my top albums video that I done at the end of last year, link down below, and you can see what it was like in my end of year list. So here we go. I'm going to start off with some black metal, and this one was one of the first albums in 2018 that I checked out that came out in 2017, and that is RIFE with, I believe it's pronounced Dommedagskvad. I believe that's how it's pronounced, but yeah, this album. Fucking hell, this is an absolute black metal monster we have here. I cannot believe that I missed out on this in 2017, because this would have been in my top albums list for sure. If you're into bands like Wyattxhim, Dark Funeral, or Marduk, that sort of style of black metal, quite riff heavy oriented, but still very ritualistic, very dark, sinister, and quite creepy in a sense, then this is definitely for you. This is a solid piece of black metal. I saw quite a few YouTubers in their like end of year list talking about this album, and that's what made us go and check it out. And plus, I have to say, I really liked that artwork and the spot gloss, as you can see, with the light bouncing off. Yeah, but nonetheless, that doesn't take away the fact that this is an amazing album, and I'm so glad to have it in my collection now. And I've been listening to it literally non-stop over the past 2 months, and you just need to hear it if you haven't already. And if you're a late bloomer like me, yeah, this one is definitely one to check out. And those who have checked out the album already will know exactly what I'm on about. It is sick. Next up, we have an album that was in the long run to be in the top albums of 2017 video, but later got knocked into the honourable mentions of like that year, but then exited out of that, and I kind of regret it because I did listen to this album quite a lot, but I'm definitely going to talk about it today. But this is Antropomorphia with Sermon of Wrath. Yeah, one of those, yeah, titties on an album cover are always good. But anyway, this album was my first exposure to the band, like proper exposure to the band anyway. First checked out the song, I believe it was the title track, Sermon of Wrath, which they released prior to the album's release, and it was the first track that they dropped off the album. And I was really impressed. I loved the demonicness. It kind of reminded us a lot of like newer Belphegor, and with the aggression of the likes of Deicide, for example. I really had that kind of nice, swift combination to it. But I was like really looking forward to it, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be a great album. And I reviewed this album on my channel earlier in the year, so make sure you check out that review if you get a chance. But anyway, this album still is a real monster to listen to. It's got, as I said, a very demonic atmosphere to it, but it doesn't take away that it's got some real depth, very crunchy production behind it, and it's very meaty as well. It definitely makes an impact and really puts an enjoyment factor to this album. It's riff heavy, it's dark, it's blackened, it's heavy, gritty stuff, and you need to hear it. If you haven't heard Antropomorphia, then definitely check out this album. It's really solid, and I just wish I gave it a little bit more time in 2017, and it might have appeared in the list, but what can you do? I might as well add also that whatever I see about these albums, it doesn't change, obviously, the list that I made. That still stands, because all those albums in that list were spot on amazing, if you ask me. But yeah, check out that video if you want to know more. But anyway, moving on to something a little bit different. We're going to dwell into some thrash metal mixes with heavy metal and speed metal. Yeah, that's something I never thought I'd talk about on this channel, because it's not really my sort of style. I'm not massive into the old school sound. But this album got a lot of hype in 2017. It made quite a few appearances as people's #1 album of the year, but if not, it was in at least the top 5 without a shadow of a doubt, and quite rightly so, because this is a very enjoyable, fun album. I'm talking about Vulture with the Guillotine. Yeah, this album was on a lot of people's lists, and quite rightly so. This is such an enjoyable, fun album to listen to. Like, as I said, I'm not massive into the whole style, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a chance to see what the dealio is. And I really fucking enjoyed this album. Like, the funness and the enjoyment factor was one. But I loved the catchiness, the riffs, the powerful vocals, the soaring melodies that echo through this album, that gives it a very old school production value, and definitely makes it as if it was pulled out from back in the day, if you know what I mean, back from like the 80s, but it still offers a lot going for it, and in my opinion, it deserves to be on a lot of people's top albums. I can really see that. For all it's not entirely my thing, it is still worthy, in my opinion, as being in like the higher register of people's top albums. Definitely check this out if you want just a good, fun time, enjoyable thrash, speed metal, heavy metal kind of album. Then definitely check this one out, Vulture with the Guillotine. Really sick artwork and a really sick, enjoyable album. Next up, we have a great deathcore release from 2017. This is probably my second favourite EP of 2017. Like I said in my previous Super Metal recommendations, that Bound in Fear is probably my EP of 2017. And that probably still stands, because I still love the shit out of that. So make sure you check out my old Super Metal recommendation episodes to know more about that. But this one has to go #2 because of how crushing and obnoxious it was, and just, wow, amazing. I'm talking about footage of a Yeti with Purging the Human Condition. Wow, I was so looking forward to this. After their debut EP, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I was like hooked on the band since then. I was like, they just are the no bullshit deathcore style that I absolutely fucking adore. Incredible, heavy, fast when it needs to be, but just barbaric and no fucks given, relentless punishment. That's all I want to hear. And this EP, it takes on more of a kind of down-tempo kind of influence in there, but it really doesn't take away from the fact that this is no bullshit, just straight-up deathcore, done proper, and these guys deserve more recognition, if you ask me, because this thing is repulsively heavy. I mean, just here, Purging the Human Condition Part 1, you'll know exactly what I mean. I remember I was just had my music on loud the other day, just checking out some of these releases, and it got to that song, and I was just like in awe just listening to how heavy that song kicked in. Same for Part 2 in essence, but Part 1 just takes it for me. Anyway, another song definitely check out would be Death Prayer, featuring Tyler Shelton from, as you know, Traitors. But yeah, make sure you check out this EP. It is crushing, devastating as hell. I absolutely love it. Alright, next up. Now, as you may remember in my last unpackaging video I did, which was for Dark Descent Records, I bought a few titles from there and showcased them in a video and talked a little bit about them. Now, there was a lot of albums, like I said, in that video that I discovered in early January 2018. And I felt like listening to these albums, I was like, what the fuck have I missed here? I've missed so much, I should be ashamed of us. And so I picked up a load of titles from there, checked out a lot of stuff, and I was just like, yeah, this is a fantastic label that I have to watch in 2018. But anyway, there was a lot of releases that I wanted to feature in this video, and I narrowed it down to 2, which one you'll see near the end of the video, so bear with us for that one. But this one, in my opinion, impressed me the most, and blew me away when I first heard it. It was Scourge of Violence Album of the Year for 2017, and quite rightly so. This is a devastating but relentless death metal album. I'm talking about Gorephilia with Severed Monolith. If you haven't heard this album and you're into death metal, you need to change that now, because this is unbridled, unrelenting, just obnoxiously great death metal. I mean, this album just blew me away when I first heard it. It's got so much grit to it. It's got a bit of a kind of diabolicalness to it, but there's one thing that I do love in particular about this album compared to all the others, was the song Crushed Under the Weight of God, the last track on this album. There's a like synthy kind of background, like ambience going on. And I'm not kidding, it kind of gives me, like personally, a bit of a Lovecraftian kind of vibe and a bit more mysticalness. And that track, in my opinion, just was like, yeah, that made my day just hearing that. But I could be wrong, that might be just me going absolutely insane, but that's the vibes that I get when I listen to that song. But this album, if you want to listen to some really solid death metal from 2017, this is the perfect place to start if you haven't checked it out already. If you have checked it out, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. So yeah, Gorephilia with Severed Monolith. Fantastic release through Dark Descent Records. Amazing. Alright, next up we have some more black metal. And this was another one that I checked out in early 2018. It wasn't Dark Descent Records, but it wasn't put out through Dark Descent Records, sorry. But that doesn't change the fact that this album is fucking incredible. I'm talking about Clandestine Blaze with City of Slaughter. Now, this was I discovered this through Canyon Bickle's top albums list, and he mentioned Darkthrone in the when describing it, and I was quite intrigued with how he pictured it, basically. And so I went ahead and checked it out, and I was really, really impressed from the get-go. And I went out in Newcastle the next day, and I went into Big Time Records, and someone had traded in their entire Clandestine Blaze collection. And I found this album in there, and I thought, you know what, I've got to buy it, because I did enjoy it. And then, as soon as I got home, it literally changed everything that I thought about this album. It jumped from, oh, that's a pretty good album, to, holy fuck, this is an amazing, amazing album, and I absolutely love this album now. It's got a bit of an eeriness to it that you would hear on an older Darkthrone kind of album. And also, I detect a bit of a, I believe that's how it's pronounced, Magla. I can't remember how to pronounce it exactly, but I definitely get that kind of influence and vibes from this album. But this is still a raw, not mega raw, it's just a raw, gritty, eerie style of black metal in the style that you would hear on the likes of Transylvanian Hunger, for example, which is one of my favourite albums of all time. So that's why I probably instantly clicked with this. But this is a very, very, very good album. Very enjoyable to listen to, and it's definitely an album that I have had on me docking station, which is right next to my bed. I usually put this album on and just let it just drift us off into a nice slumber. This is definitely one of those albums to listen to. It's very chilling, very ambient, still quite atmospheric, but still the rawness of the black metal kind of puts in mind of the likes of Burzum, for example, Visla Setar Os, for example, or Darkthrone and Magla. If you're into those type of bands and you haven't heard Clandestine Blaze, make sure you do, because this is a sick album. I definitely need to check out more of Clandestine Blaze, especially if it sounds anything like this album, because this album is fantastic. Alright, next up we have some death metal, some brutal death metal, and this is one of the albums that I was talking about earlier, where I heard it in 2017, I thought, yeah, it's pretty fucking good, and then listened to it quite a bit, but then kind of like drifted away from it, and then came back to it in early 2018, and I was like, holy fuck, why the hell did I not give this as much attention as it needed? Because this album truly blew me the fuck away yet again, and I'm ashamed that I didn't put this in my top albums. This would have been in the top 10, guaranteed. I'm talking about Scordatura with Self-Created Abyss. If my camera's going to focus. There we are. Holy shit, man. This album is leaps and bounds above Torment of the Week. Torment of the Week was a fucking solid album and a relentless, brutal death metal album. But this album takes that relentless and just knocks it out of the park and just annihilates it with a fucking bazooka. This is insanely fucking good. It's more relentless, it's more attacking, it's more gritty and just more insane. The fastness of the pace of the drums and the impact they create, the hard riffs, just how hard and punishing they are, and then the vocals are even more relentless than they have ever been. Daryl has upped his vocal game by 1,000,000%, just sounding more and more disturbing. It's unnerving to just hear how good this album is compared to Torment of the Week. And I know Torment of the Week made my top albums of the year it came out, which I can't remember off the top of my head. But this album, I really wish I gave it more attention, because this would have been in the top 10 without a shadow of doubt. Make sure you check out Self-Created Abyss by Scordatura, released under Gorehouse Productions. I'm ashamed that I didn't feature this in my top albums. I really fucking am. I'm sorry, lads. Anyways, moving on to some more deathcore in another form of an EP. And this one lands the 3rd place as my favourite EP of 2017. This EP is just punishing, just gritty, and just one of the most heaviest things I think I heard in 2017. This one kept on juggling for the #1 spot with Bound in Fear and Footage of a Yeti. It was a 3-way battle, but I listened to Bound in Fear a little bit more than Footage of a Yeti than this one. I had to go on plays but regardless, this is fantastic. I Detest with Volume 1 EP. Holy shit, man. Jonathan Huber is back and sounding more pissed off, more vicious than ever before. His gut-wrenching lows are just some of the most monstrous vocals you will ever hear in metal. In general, across all genres, you'll never hear someone quite as monstrous as Jonathan Huber. He's teamed up with a former, I believe, guitarist of Enterprise Earth to do this project, and my god, it is obnoxiously heavy. It's got a lot of down-tempo influence. It's got a bit of a technical deathcore kind of influence, kind of like, the only way I can describe it is like linking it to Patient Zero or the Enterprise Earth album, kind of like that form of technicality, not too technical, but still really fucking heavy. And just with Jonathan Huber's vocals over the top, it just adds and makes this one of the most heaviest things that I've ever heard in my life. So make sure you check out I Detest with Volume 1. These guys are on the rise, and they are going to wreak havoc upon the world of deathcore, if you ask me. Alright, and now we arrive at another Dark Descent Records release. I said there was 2, this is the final one. And this album is, there's no other ways of describing it other than putrid, filthy, disturbing, unnerving death metal goodness, if you ask me. I'm talking about Undergang with Misantropologi. I believe that's how it's pronounced. This album was on a lot of people's top albums list, and quite rightly so. This album, when I heard it, was easily the most chilling death metal release I heard in 2017. It's gut-wrenching, filthy, putrid, just unnerving. That's literally the only words you can use to describe Undergang's Misantropologi. I mean, when I first heard this, I was literally scared listening to this album. I thought, what the fuck is this? It was like I was listening to Suicide Euphoria by Pissgrave again. That was one of the most unnerving death metal albums that I've ever heard, but this one I think's topped it, and I absolutely love this album. I'm just so glad that I gave it a second opportunity. Like, I was literally just like, wow, I can't listen to this, it's far too putrid. But then going back to it, it just was like it just clicked with us and made so much sense. So make sure you check out Undergang with Misantropologi, easily the most filthiest death metal album in 2017. I know people will say Friendless debut was more putrid, but have you heard this album? Wow. Anyway, props to Friendly for that album anyway. And finally, we arrive at the main recommendation for this episode, because obviously I always pick one release to feature last that has to be the main super metal recommendation of the specific episode. And this one for me has to take the biscuit straight away. Ever since the start of 2018, I've listened to quite a few 2018 releases, and I've listened to quite a few 2017 releases. But out of the releases that I've listened to so far, this one has been on repeat the most, without a shadow of doubt. And ironically enough, it's a 2017 release, but what can you do? But this album just annihilates this band's previous albums that have done, and just puts them in toxic waste. Yep, you've probably guessed who it is. CYTOTOXIN with Gammageddon. Gammageddon is the epitome of what I wanted a CYTOTOXIN album to be. That perfect blend of relentless, putrid, fast death metal, but not overplaying guitar wankery, and just bringing essence of brutality and intensity upon a gamma-filled death metal release such as Gammageddon. This release is fantastic. I love this album now. This is easily the album. Like, Scordatura's Selfcreated Abyss is another one of these albums, but this one takes Abyss. This would have been up there in the top 10, top 6, top 5, whatever. It is that good, and I feel bad that I didn't feature it in my top albums, because this album just, it's so, I know it's kind of a pun, but it's so toxic and gamma-filled. It's just, you can feel the radiation just pouring into your ears when you listen to this. It actually feels like it was recorded right there in Chernobyl. Just like, that's the way I feel when I listen to this album. Just make sure you check out CYTOTOXIN with Gammageddon. Make sure you check out the song Radiatus, Generous, Gammageddon, the title track, Chernobylis, Redefining Zenith, Coronium Era, Sector Zero. Just all these tracks that you see on the back are just amazing. 10 tracks of just tech death, just perfection, if you ask me. Make sure you check out CYTOTOXIN's Gammageddon, especially. Make sure you check out all these releases, but make sure you check this one. This is easily my #1 super metal recommendation of this episode. It's just so goddamn good. There's no other way of putting it. But yeah, so there's 10 releases and 10 more 2017 honourable mentions. If you haven't checked out any of these albums, make sure you check out at least one of these, because they have blew me away in the past 2 months of 2018 and in 2017 in general. But yeah, make sure you check out all these albums and stick around for more content on the upcoming. I've got album reviews, CD reviews, other vlogs that I'm planning just to break up the reviews, and also Updates and Purchases 37 is coming very soon, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I'll see you until the next video, and remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.